You're listening to the InFocus Interview Show, brought to you by photofocus.com, an online publication filled with education and inspiration for visual storytellers. This episode is made possible by our partners, Lume Cube, the world's most versatile light, and Drobo, a smart storage solution. Now here's your host, Vanelli.
Hello and welcome. I'm Vanelli. Now, my guest is a portrait photographer specializing in family and pets. He is very active with local, state, and national level of PPA. Please welcome Mike Fults. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Vanelli. How you doing?
It's great. Now, Mike, our topic is why should you join a camera club or like an organization like PPA?
Well, for me, changing careers, it really accelerated my ability to get up to speed with current ways of being a photographer. Part of it was, first thing I needed was insurance on my equipment. So PPA has that at the national level. Then I joined the local affiliate, in our case, Bay, which is based in Sarasota, Florida. And there you're meeting with local photographers who are working in the business and are more than willing to share information with you, along with bringing in national speakers to come in and talk to you about how they do things. So you may get Photoshop, you may get lighting, you may get business. It is just, it accelerates your learning at a rate that's just unbelievable.
Great. So first is the insurance, and for everyone to understand that, PPA offers, with your national level membership, right, free insurance. And what does that cover?
That covers the basics of your gear up to a certain dollar amount, which is quite significant, actually. It's you got general liability, you've got your deductibles of $250 for your first loss, $500 for your second. And it's free to enroll. You just click the button. It says start my coverage.
Oh, great. Yeah. And of course, it can also be used with your home insurance or if you have your personal insurance on your gear. And I think about, if you're a professional photographer, your homeowner's insurance won't cover your professional gear. You need a separate rider for that. But the fact that PPA actually gives you, the insurance, I think that was always a huge benefit in my book. Then you touched on a second benefit, which I liked. At the clubs, at the local levels, you're saying they bring in speakers for you to learn from, correct?
Yes, monthly. We have all the affiliates in the state of Florida, at least I know, they have a meeting once a month, and they bring in a speaker, either a master photographer. Some cases, it's completely outside of the industry, so you get a different perspective. But we've had Sandra Pierce speak. We have Randy Van Dynen coming in to speak this year. But we've also have marketing experts. We have, he's a Disney photographer, so he works for Disney. And if you want to get married in the castle, he's your guy. We've had those type of people come in. So it's and this year I'm in charge of programs for our local affiliate. So I've gone out and brought in people that I think they need to hear from.
Oh, that's great. All right, so that's two benefits. The third benefit, of course, is working with other people, brainstorming and networking. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. When I came into photography as a professional, I thought it was going to be cutthroat, backstabbing, the whole bit. It is anything but at the state and the local level, and particularly the national level also. As an example, we're doing our local salon tonight, which is kind of our kickoff for competition season, which I'll get into later. But I can take my images and I can show them to other people, and they will tell me what's wrong, what's right, what I need to change, and tell me, just don't work on that. You got too much heart in it, but let it go. Or they'll build you up. Or another example is print sales, which is the struggle of every photographer these days. And we will collaborate, even though we do the exact same thing in the exact same area. We'll talk about how to do it, so that if you rise the water, all boats rise, kind of idea. So that we work as collaboratively, so that we're not to race to the bottom on pricing, but we're trying to get our pricing to where we are worth as artists.
Gotcha. All right, well then, explain the different levels of PPA. You said there's local, state, and national.
Yeah, so the local level is usually between 20 to 50 local professional photographers, and they get together once a month. They have a meeting. Some have dinner, some don't. They have traditional awards. They have all sorts of events that they sponsor, socials and such. They have their monthly meeting. They do Salon once or twice a year, and Salon is kind of it's a local competition where you're trying to meet to the 12 elements of standard for print competition. That's at the state level. At the local level. At the state level, they have 2 or 3 different seminars a year, which are either in Gainesville or Orlando, or it could be anywhere depending on your state. Then they're bringing in top-notch professionals also from out of state. They'll bring them from as far as California. We've had them come from other countries. Then you also have your annual state conference, which in our case is called Focus. And it's a bigger version of the local, but you'll have 4 or 5 speakers a day over 3 days.
Wow.
You'll have a small trade show. You can sit down and talk to these people face to face. And again, they are helpful. They share their knowledge of, I may talk to somebody like Tony Corbell, and he will sit and tell me, this is how I do it. This is why I do it. And if I bring up something, well, what if I tried this? He may come back and say, actually, he did come back and say, well, I tried that, and this is why I don't do it that way. And you can do it with 1 person, 3 people, or in the entire group. It's just an amazing educational opportunity that you're not going to get anywhere else unless you go to the national level, which is, again, exponentially larger than the state level.
And so national level, that's your Imaging USA. And
so the national conference is a larger version of the state conference. You have 3 days of seminars, listening to they have a track called Bridge the Gap, which is all business related and marketing, how to sell yourself, how to market yourself, finding your ideal customer. You can also get creativity consulting. So you can talk to people about Photoshop, Lightroom, lighting. But again, you have different events each night where you can all get together. The presenters are there. People from all over the country, if not the world, are there. It's just a phenomenal experience. And again, those 3 levels have accelerated my business rapidly.
So and each one of them has their own fee, right? So the national level, what is it yearly for the national level? Do you know?
I think I do the monthly. I pay, it's like $240, $250 a year.
Okay.
And then the conference, I believe, is $195 to $200 plus your hotel and such.
Gotcha. Now the first time you join,
it's free.
Don't they they give you the conference for free?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what about the local and state level? Is there a fee involved in that?
Yes. So in our case, we pay at the local level, we pay a one-time fee of, I think, $120 for the year. And then we pay, in our case, because we have dinner included, it's $35 a meeting. And we get to eat all sorts of goodies that we wouldn't normally eat. But it's at a Amish restaurant. So we like to say, come for the food, stay for the pot. But it's so, and then that lasts, the meeting starts about 5:30 and we're done by 9. And then
Gotcha.
Sometimes we have meetings in the parking lot afterwards just because we can't stop talking to one another.
And you don't have to join all 3,
No,
correct?
you do not. You can join any one of the different levels, and that's quite common. I would say.
Well, then so how do you personally leverage all 3 of them?
So at the local level, I'm heavily involved as the vice president this year, in charge of programs, and it interfaces me with other photographers in the area where I might get referrals because they're busy. It allows me to understand how the local market works by talking to them, and then the mentoring. We have people in there that have been professional photographers for 50 years. We have people that have been in, that are not professional photographers, but they are outstanding artists. And so they're in there with a different perspective because they may be retired or just their hobby. But they bring in work that it's not client work. And so it's different in talking to them. At the state level, you can earn state degrees, masters, you can earn artist masters, you can earn different types of merits. And these merits add up over time. And so you can get what they've referred to as a degree at the state level. That allows me to get mentored by other photographers that do exactly what I do, but are not in competition with me. So when I wanted to start shooting a particular style of photography, I reached out to the 2 leading photographers in the state that do that and sat down and talked to them. And they told me exactly how they do it. And fortunately, they were both different. So I can then have it, apply my perspective to it and see how I want to make it work. And then at the national level, okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you said the national level?
Yeah, at the national level, the coming back to professional photography after a 30-year hiatus, I didn't want my clients to have a perspective that I was just a retired computer programmer that bought a fancy camera. And so certification to me is quite valuable in that it says, look, not only did I buy this fancy camera, but I know how to use it. And I know all the physics. I know all I need to know about being a professional photographer from the photographic perspective. Running the business, as we all know, is 95% of being a professional photographer and 5% of actually clicking the shutter. But that certification separates me from everybody else who doesn't have it. And I can say, look, I'm a certified professional photographer. These are my rates, and this is why. Without it, then I feel it's a race to the bottom of everybody just trying to get the work, regardless of how much they make in capturing the work. So that was very important to me at the national level.
Mike, you just came back from Imaging USA. Now, let's talk about your experience there. But before we do, let's take a moment and thank our partners.
Lume Cube. Lume Cube is proudly known as the world's most versatile light. It's the smallest, lightest, most compact professional lighting solution on the market. Lume Cube represents the future of LED lighting and is a must-have for anyone looking to create better photos and video. Check out the new Lume Cube strobe, offering anti-collision lighting for drones at lumecube.com. Drobo. Drobo is a smart storage solution that protects photos, videos, and more from hard drive failure, giving peace of mind for the working pro or serious amateur who have a lot of external drives cluttering up their desktop. Save 10% at drobostore.com with the coupon code PHOTOFOCUS.
And we're back with portrait photographer Mike Fults. Mike, now let's continue with your experience at Imaging USA. This wasn't your first time attending, right?
No, this is my second time. The first time was in Atlanta in 2019, about 3 months after I'd opened my studio. I went up there not knowing what I didn't know and just took in a fire hose of information. And fortunately, I had been involved at the local and state level enough to where I had people kind of guide me to what I needed to get to. What I discovered was that you can get anything you want up there. If you want training in technique, or if you want business consulting, however, whatever you want. What really stuck out to me was this track they have called Bridge the Gap. And it is to bridge the gap between the artist and the client, finding your ideal client. You have brand consultants, you have motivational speakers, you have successful photographers in different genres. So it may be portraits, it may be pets, it may be commercial, and they're all there talking to you. The groups may be as large as 500, they may be as small as 15, depending on what they're talking about. The Bridge the Gap track was important to me because it enlightened me as to how I need to position my business and myself within my business. The one that really set the light bulb off was a presentation by a fellow named Jeffrey Shaw. He is a former portrait photographer in New York City, and his story is incredibly inspiring in the way he came about figuring out who his ideal client was. He has a podcast, Creative Warriors, that I listen to. Sometimes it's photography related, sometimes it's not. However, there's always something in there. And when I went back this year and saw Jeffrey Shaw, spoke to him again, just like I did the first year, this time I knew what I didn't know. And he was able to have a conversation with me and say, well, okay, this is right. You've done this right. You might want to think about this. The exciting part was that he looked at my website, and the message on my website is that we capture memories for our clients. And the way I had phrased it, he goes, that reminds me of a Maya Angelou quote. I said, exactly. That's where I got it from, was that I was inspired to write this from that. And he goes, well, that's the best thing you've ever done. Now expand on it. So that's where I'm in now, is expanding that across my website instead of just as my opening statement. I've learned pricing. I've learned the importance of putting appropriate pricing on it. And if the client doesn't want to pay it or doesn't have the means to, they're not your ideal client. And don't try to shoehorn yourself into making them the ideal client, because you'll just twist yourself into knots, and it won't be right. It won't be a good fit for anybody. So the PPA has taught me how to be in the business of photography, not just clicking the shutter. I did take a couple classes that did teach me how to light people. One, my first time I went up there, I've read a couple of books by Chris Knight, or a book by Chris Knight, and I go, okay, I want to go see how he does his Rembrandt lighting, because that's what he's known for. And it was a 2-hour auditorium style session, largest session I went to. And he started with an hour and a half of art history on the Dutch master painters from the 1600s, something I had never heard. And I am enthralled by listening to this guy speak. And then he gets into the lighting. Not everybody wanted to hear that. They all knew the history. I did not. Mm-hmm. But then the light bulb went off on me, like, wait a minute, this lighting style was developed by a window. First time that had gone off in my head. And it led me down a path where my lighting was exponentially better the next time I walked in the studio. It's just that kind of information at all these different levels. You try some stuff, you may not like it. You may love it. I learned a couple of lighting techniques, even in my certification class. The guy did a couple of things just off topic that he was talking about that I had never seen. And it was just his way of doing it. And I tried it out last week, and now I'm entering the results into a local salon, because it's really awesome. So there's just so much to this. But anytime I have a question, I have people who can answer it.
Exactly. And that's the biggest key. Now, Mike, where can we find more about you?
Well, you'll find out more about me on my website or on Facebook if you search for Photofinity SRQ, and that's photo with an F. I know one of the things I don't like the name of my company simply because I can't spell it to people. But so Photofinity SRQ on Facebook, Instagram, and .com. And I don't know what else to say.
What about Instagram?
Oh, and on Instagram, I'm also at Photofinity SRQ and Mike Fults, the photographer.
That's great. Hey, Mike, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule.
Well, thank you very much, Vanelli.
You are listening to the InFocus Interview Show. If you like these interviews, be sure to subscribe to our weekly Photo Focus podcast on photofocus.com. Thank you for joining us.